There's 4 main things that we always look at for a channel. The first is the frequency. The second is length. Either super short, under a minute, or 10 minutes plus. The next is going to be your click-through rate, which will be a function of your thumbnail and your title. And then the first minute retention. Think about how can you charge a higher price to fewer people. It's easier for you to get 5 clients who will pay you $3,000 a month. Like, focus on that.
Here at Millennial Money, we always talk about the importance of starting young and using your entrepreneurship skills at a very young age. And today's guest at 19 bought and sold a biotech software company. At 22, he became a venture capitalist, raising about $500,000 to $15 million, and now owns a very successful YouTube channel for entrepreneurs and has written 4 books. So Evan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Great to be in studio filming, and you know my bio better than I do, so that's great. It's awesome to be here.
I did my homework before seeing you, yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, you have an incredible story. You've inspired so many people, and I think it's a perfect fit for our audience because you started very young too. And sometimes we don't think, we have the wisdom to start, but you clearly did. So can you talk to us a little bit about that journey?
So I had a lot of entrepreneurial tendencies growing up, but I'm maybe the edge of millennial. When does millennial start?
Geez, I don't even know that because technically I could be a Gen Zer. So I'm not...
So like I'm 42. I think that's just like the first year of millennial.
Yeah.
So I'm like the grandfather of the millennials. So when I was getting started, entrepreneurship wasn't a thing. You had to be weird to want to start your own business. So I had a lot of entrepreneurial tendencies growing up, but I never thought of becoming an entrepreneur because I didn't know anybody who was entrepreneurs. So growing up really young, I mean, I made my first 10 cents selling art that I made when I was 5 years old, kind of going door to door, selling art to my neighbors. That was super fun. And then I did a bunch of garage sales and like baseball card trade shows. And I remember when I was 12, 13, buying and selling baseball cards and negotiating with people who were like 40, and they felt like ancient, and I'm 42, but the 40-year-olds felt like these guys are so old, and I'm negotiating with them over, $1, right? And in Canada, our dollars are coins, right? So the guy would give me $1, but it would have mud on it. It's like, okay, I'll clean off the mud. It's still $1, right? But in my high school yearbook, when they ask you where you're going to be in 5 years, I said VP at a bank because I just thought I love money, I love making money, but the only way to make money was to go get a job and go into banking. In university, I connected with 2 entrepreneurs who had started a company, and the hardest decision that I had to make was, do I go take these investment banking jobs and make 6 figures like right out of university, or take 30% of this company and make $300 a month? And that was a really tough choice at the time. All my friends were going off and getting all these jobs. I'm like, okay, I should go do that. Like my head was like, I should go do that. But my heart was like, I'm going to regret this. Like if I don't at least give it a shot, I'm going to regret it. And so I went with my own business. We struggled, we sucked. We can dive into that if you want. I quit on my business partner for a day. And eventually we turned it around and made it, built it, sold it. But a lot of it was I loved the idea of business and making money. I just didn't, I wish your channel existed when I was, YouTube wasn't even around. So like Robert loves to say, all the best teachers are on YouTube. And I think now there's so many more opportunities for young people to get their business off the ground. I don't know, I probably wouldn't even gone to university, if I had YouTube.
And that's incredible because like you said, back then, it wasn't common to be an entrepreneur, where now it's incentivized. And what I find really incredible about your story too is at 19, right, you become a partner of this biotech software company, and you take that $300 salary a month, and you leave the everybody's passion at that time, which was the high-paying career, right, like 6 figures. What prepared you? Like you said, you had tendencies of an entrepreneur, but what prepared you to make such a big decision?
I struggled a lot, so it wasn't just some easy, looking back it looks easy, but in the time I had no idea. There was a quote from Jeff Bezos where he talked about his regret minimization framework, which was basically don't live with regrets. And I would just imagine myself thinking, okay, when I'm an old man at 40, I'm 42 now. When I'm an old man and it's finished at 40, life is over, I'm gonna look back and will I regret this or not? And I just felt like I would rather know and fail than not know. the idea of trying this business and not knowing and not getting into it, I felt like that would haunt me forever. So I just had to know. Even if the most likely scenario was failure, which I thought it was, like I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot for a year, I'll go all in at it. Some of my friends were backpacking across Europe or whatever for the year. And then in a year, I can go get another job. It may not be the same job, it may not be as much pay, but I can get another job. I may not get this opportunity again. So I had to say yes. I just didn't want to live with regrets.
Yeah, and while you're like living off of like that $300 salary, you know, your friends are traveling, some of them are already in their high paying careers. I guess on a day-to-day basis, what truly pushed you through those mental barriers of, you know, living below your means too, probably at that time?
That was rough. I made it harder on myself because I was too embarrassed to tell my friends that I was struggling. You know, so when they ask me how am I doing, it's like, oh, I'm hustling, I'm living the entrepreneur life, you know, I'm grinding.
The dream.
Yeah, and you're like, I got nothing, I got no money, man. I'm eating the same bean salad lunch every day. The living below the means part wasn't that difficult. Like I had a bean salad lunch every day. It was cheap, like can of beans. It would fill me up, relatively healthy. When we closed a sale, we would go to McDonald's and get large fries and share it between the three of us, right? So like that was our win. Like, ooh, we can afford a large fries at McDonald's. But the hard part was with my friends who wanted to go out and, you know, hang out, birthday parties, whatever. Because I isolated myself and said I was too embarrassed, I was too ashamed, I said no to going out to things because $25 for pizza and beer, like I could pick one thing per month and that was it. And so in looking back, if I was just honest, it would have been easy. I'm sure they would have spotted me or it would have been fine, but I was too embarrassed and ashamed and I didn't tell anybody. So I made it harder on myself than I think it needs to be. Yeah. And I think entrepreneurship is a super lonely game, but it doesn't have to be if you let people in and just let them know, you know, that sometimes you're struggling and that's okay.
And I love that too because, you know, just this past weekend I was at Empowered Investor, the real estate conference. And like you said, sometimes we try to pretend that we're doing so much better, but when you open yourself up and you're vulnerable, sometimes there's solutions to these problems. Like, so a lot of people started telling me, you know, I have a rental property, I was just facing a couple issues, and I was just vulnerable. I was like, you know what, I don't need to pretend to anything. I want to speak about exactly the issues that are happening in my property. Maybe this will help someone, or maybe someone can help me. And you get so many answers too. So really there is a support group, like you said, and we don't have to be ashamed either.
Yeah, I mean, asking for help, I still struggle with. And I think we all maybe struggle with asking for help, but we all, you know, I think a lot of entrepreneurs love giving and love serving and love helping. So just letting people into your world and letting them know, like, people can't help you if they don't know what you're dealing with or what you're struggling with. And we tend to look to Instagram and we see how perfect everybody's lives are and just a highlight reel, like, oh, I'm not there, so I suck. But the way to actually get ahead is to share what you're struggling with and what you need help with. And maybe the person in front of you can help, or maybe they know somebody who can help. And that took me a long time to, and I'm still not fully comfortable with it, but it took me a long time to even understand. So yeah, if I knew that when I was getting started, holy cow, it'd be insane.
And you've talked about how, like, you know, being uncomfortable, right? And staying to yourself and not opening up about your struggles. And also, you know, today's generation, social media, how everything we see in someone else's life is so perfect, right? And we see the perfect picture life in 1 minute in one reel. How would you say, because we, you know, talking about the characteristics of an entrepreneur and how you need to be extroverted and your number one skill needs to be sales, and we think it's the idea of maybe everything has to be perfect, but you were an introvert. You know, you said you valued a lot more as opposed to quick starting things like maybe perfection. How did that mold you to be the entrepreneur you are today, or how did you not let it get in the way? Because a lot of people let that hold them back.
Yeah. Oh, talking about all the struggles, this is great. It's like I'm on a therapy session. This is fantastic.
Let's get it out of the way
now.
now.
That's great. I really struggled with being an introvert and feeling like I would not have success, because when I looked at who I thought were big entrepreneurs, they seem to be very extroverted. They seem to have powerful opinions. You look at a Mark Cuban or Kevin O'Leary or whoever, and it's like they are always not loudmouth might be the wrong word, but they're always seeming to be
Yeah.
really extroverted. And I felt like, well, I'm not like that. So I guess I'm not going to have success. And I have the same agent as Grant Cardone and Mel Robbins and some other people. And when I first started working with him, he's like, okay, Evan, we need to get you famous, like these guys. Like, oh, but I don't want to be famous. He's like, what do you mean you don't want to be famous? Everybody wants to be famous. No, I don't want to be famous. We would fight for years about me being famous. And then eventually he said something, or maybe I was just ready to listen, but years in, he said, the more people who know you, the more people hear your message. It's like, okay. So it's like if people know me, then they'll end up believing themselves a little bit more. And that's the thing that pulls me out of my introvert shell. So naturally, I'm quite introverted, right? It feels weird to be like, oh my gosh, we have cameras on me. This is kind of weird. We've done enough of it now that it becomes more
You're comfortable right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
but in inside pockets, I'm comfortable, right? So if we're going to talk entrepreneurship, or we're going to talk about salsa dancing, or we're going to talk about League of Legends, I can like go deep and be really excited. But if I'm sitting next to somebody on the airplane, I'm not saying hi.
Okay.
Right? I don't know what to say. So hey, what are you doing in Arizona today? It's just it feels super awkward. And I think the introvert hack to sales is we're great listeners. And it's not about us talking, and we're actually listening for the problem, which I think actually helps you sell more than just talking. And we care about deep conversations, meaningful conversations, not just superficial, how's the weather today? How about those, whatever hockey team or sports team? I'm Canadian, so hockey is what we default to. And I think that actually is an advantage. But I never saw that as an advantage growing up. See, these are things that took like years to slowly unwind.
To truly value about yourself.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting next to this guy on an airplane, and we're going to this mastermind that I was speaking at. It's in Puerto Rico. It's like $50K to go to the event, and I'm one of the speakers. And I'm sitting next to this guy, and I remember everything about him. He came from Vancouver. He's doing a hop over. He has a special leather backpack. He wanted like his coffee served to him once he got up in the air.
Oh,
like
wow.
all of these things, but I never talked to him. And he's trying to make conversation with me, and like, yeah, just like try to like, please stop talking to me. I'm focused on nothing really important. But then when we landed, I got off, and then we ended up both going to the same hotel, and I saw him in the lobby, and I'm like, are you at this event? Oh, dude, you're an entrepreneur? And then we started talking. Like
and then there the conversation.
Yeah, we had like hours on the plane where we didn't say anything because I didn't know he was an entrepreneur. But now that I know, we start talking. So I think inside these pockets, I can be very excited. But for the most part, like super shy, introverted, don't talk to anybody.
But I love that you say that, because like even, so for example, Kim, on one of the episodes that we did, she talked about how she always believed she needed to be more organized. Like that was her, like just one of her biggest flaws. And she realized that really just like being this disorganized person is what allowed her to flourish and like quick start so many projects and, build businesses quickly or jump into real estate. And she just found someone who helped her like have an organized structure to that disorganization. And so, even like, for example, if you're introverted, finding the areas that you flourish in, that you can adapt in, that you like the conversations for. And you also mentioned like the mentor that you had. Is that, when you were talking about him, is that Steve? Because I was reading about Steve in your life, and he seemed like a very pivotal and important part in your career, because you're introverted, you're wanting to inspire all these lives, and I believe he pushed you, right, to start creating content?
He pushed, I was already making content, but he pushed me to level up my game.
Okay.
And when I first started working at the agency, he said most people who come to us, they have the ability to speak on camera, but they don't have a message. And so we have to help them like hone their message and their branding. You're like the opposite. You have a great message, but you're like, you don't want to be famous and you suck on camera, right? And I wasn't even making videos for like 5 years at that point. But like, I suck on camera. Thank you, Steve. This is great. But he said, I'm going to take a flyer on you. And he really pushed me to get better. And he gave me assignments. So the first assignment he gave me was, okay, I need you to make a video telling your foundation story. So like, why do you do what you do? Where did you come from? And he gave me a template for what to do. And these were like 20-minute videos that he wanted me to make. And what I would do is I'd start in the morning, I'd film something, send it to him, he'd give me feedback, I'd do it again at lunch, he'd give me feedback, I do it again overnight, and he give me feedback. So doing like 2 to 3 times a day, I did about 40 takes of these.
Oh my goodness.
20 minutes, like it's not just some 6
No.
second thing, right? And every time he'd tell me something to improve and how to get better. And within a couple months at the agency, I went from being the worst that, almost didn't make it in to being the one that he was then pointing the other people to say, hey, you should do it more like Evan. And that's not because I had natural skill. It was like the exact opposite. It's just the willingness to listen to a mentor and then put in the work to try to actually get better.
Yeah, and practicing and practicing. And so I'm curious too, like did you already have your mission established like before seeing Steve, or did Steve inspire you to like, I need to believe in other entrepreneurs as well?
I think I had believe already, but Steve helped me bring it more to the world, right? He helped me realize, hey, I can be the guy. I think whenever we come up with a big mission, the first thing that often pops into our head afterwards is like, oh, who am I? I can't be that person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not who. It's not even our friends or families, us telling ourselves that we can't do something. And so Steve helped give me more confidence that I could play on a bigger stage when I didn't necessarily see it in myself. And his belief in me gave me belief in me. I think that's what great mentors do. It's like they give you tactics, but it's also their belief in you to play on a higher level gives you the belief that maybe you can.
Yeah. And how did you find like your Steve, right? Because there's a lot of people, I think, in the world of entrepreneurship, a mentor is probably the most important thing. And especially, like you said, someone who believes in you. Thankfully, I had my family. I'm a family full of entrepreneurs. I know a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
And really, frankly, besides my family, I had other people in my life that I met at the Rich Dad Company that made me believe in myself, that gave me the courage to invest, that gave me the courage to quit my job and everything. And so I know the value of it. And if you don't have it, I think it's a really hard road to become an entrepreneur. How did you find your mentor? Because that's really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, the trick is when you find somebody who you like, who you think they're ahead of you, and you think they might have something to contribute, like you have to find a way to get closer to them. So I'll give you 2 stories. The first with me and Steve. I met Steve through one of his clients. So one of his clients was in Toronto, same city as me, and we met at a coffee shop, and he had this idea to pitch on a YouTube video. And he said that his agent came up with this idea. He's like, agent? Like, what do you mean agent?
Yeah.
How do you have an agent? You're like a business guy or you're like a YouTuber. How do you have an agent? Because I thought agents were only for sports stars or musicians. Like, how do you? It's like, yeah, I have an agent. He represents like thought leaders. Like, okay. Can I meet him? And so he introduced me to Steve. I hopped on the call. Steve made me feel very uncomfortable, in all the right ways.
Yeah.
And that led to me wanting to do more with him, even though I didn't fit the typical mold. So it's following the curiosity, right? If I met this guy in Toronto. His name was Sean, and if I never asked Sean about the agent, I wouldn't have had that conversation. Fast forward a couple years ago, there was a guy, Jeremy, who came to one of my events, and he's paid like $2,500 or something to come to this event. He's 18, 19 years old. He is working as a grocery store clerk. Like, hates his life, doesn't want to work grocery store, doesn't know what he really wants to do, likes my energy, saw my YouTube videos, come to the event. It's a 3-day event. At the end of the event, he messages me, he says, hey, Evan, I just want to, like, how do I spend more time with you? I don't have any skills yet, but I'll walk your dog, I'll clean your car, I'll mow your lawn. Like, I just want to spend more time with you. And I messaged him back, said, that's super amazing, Jeremy, but I don't need somebody to walk my dog or clean my car. But thank you. A couple months later, I was driving on my tour, and I'm driving through this desert in Texas, and I think of Jeremy, and I thought, maybe I could teach Jeremy YouTube. Like, I wonder, people keep asking me about YouTube, and they want me to do work on their channel, and I don't want to do that as a business, but maybe I could teach Jeremy how to do it. And so we got Jeremy on the phone that moment. He took a little break from his grocery store, job, and said, Jeremy, I want to teach you YouTube. We'll start a business together, and I'm away for the next 2 months on the road, so I need you to watch all of these videos and learn everything you can about YouTube. And when I come back, if you've done that, I'll help you build a YouTube consulting business.
Wow.
And we did, and now he's got a high 6-figure YouTube business, consulting. He made 6 figures in the first 6 months or so of having his business. And that's from being a grocery store clerk, right? But if he didn't do that outreach to me, I wouldn't have taken a shot on him either. It's just the heart and the energy and the care, and he's just, I'll wash your car and I'll clean, hang out with your dog. I just love the energy. And even though nothing came up in the moment, he was in the back of my mind to say, okay, maybe I should do something with Jeremy. And so it's trying to be in a room where you get to talk to them, but then it's almost uncomfortable, like, next ask, and showing your hunger and your commitment level. And then the key thing is, when you get that, is you ask one question to the mentor, because successful people actually love mentoring, but they also hate wasting time. Like, time is the most valuable asset, and they love mentoring, but they hate wasting time. And a lot of mentees waste time because they don't do the work. So the best thing you can do, if you're trying to get into a mentorship relationship, you ask one question. Like, what's the one question? You've got to ask Robert Kiyosaki one question. Like, what's the one question that you want to ask him, right? And then don't ask another question, because that's what people will do. They'll come back and say, oh, what about this? And what about that? It's like, no. Like, do the work on the first question that he gave you an answer for. And then go home and actually do the work. And if you get a result, then you can come back and ask the second question. Hey, I asked you this. I did this. Now I've got 5 apartments, man. Thank you from your advice. Now I'm struggling with this. He's much more likely to give you a second answer because of the work you did on the first one. Or if the advice didn't work, make sure that you tried it 100 times, right? It wasn't just you made one phone call and it didn't work, and so the advice sucked, right? Because if you tried it 100 times and you showed the effort, then he's willing to answer a second question. And a mentorship relationship is not, hey, will you mentor me? Because that is a relationship. And the mentor understands the value of that relationship. And you come in and it's like walking up to somebody and say, hey, will you marry me? It's super awkward. It's like, no, right? But how mentorship happens is one question at a time, right? You ask one question, you go do the work. You come back with the second question, you do the work. Now all of a sudden, you're getting mentored. And the mentor will see the hustle and drive and energy in you, and they'll start thinking of other opportunities for you as well. So it's that first step is you go to conferences, you go to events, you ask one question, and then you go off and do the work and give them the update. And that leads you to creating mentorship relationships.
I think that formula that you gave to find your mentor is perfect. Like, I had never been able to find the words to exactly put it that way. Because Jeremy's story is actually pretty similar to mine, right? And so I meet Robert, I meet the team, and I'm like crazy to learn more about financial freedom, to live my passion, to become an entrepreneur. And I asked the right question, I executed, I wanted to show. For me, it's always like, how do you add value? And so I wanted to prove that I could add value to their life, so that they could see value in me, right? And have me become like a mentee. And like you said, it's power of association too, right? What rooms can you be in with the people, with like-minded people that want to take you where you want to be? And that's exactly what I do when I go to these conferences. Like, each time I come out with like a new mentor, and my approach is always, and I would say it's naturally like I'm like this. I'm not trying to be selfish about it, but I try and find a way to help them first, whether it's marketing, whatever they might need. I try and find a way to just give them what they need. And then sometimes, they want to help me in return. So that's powerful. Like what you said, that's literally the perfect formula to find your mentor.
Yeah. And I know, the show is talking about money as well. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made early on when I had any money was I just tried to invest it and put it into the stock market. And I remember, like, I had $2,000. Like, okay, I'm going to put it in the stock market and it's going to grow. I was like, oh, it's like taking so long to grow. It's only $2,000. Where Jeremy actually made a much smarter call. Like, I think at the beginning, you invest in your skills and you invest in your network, because that $2,500 investment that Jeremy made now has a mid-6-figure or high 6-figure business every year because he came to that event. But if you just put it into the stock market, sure, it would grow. Yeah. But I think at the beginning, you need to invest in yourself to get the skills that you need to be able to then create the network and create value for other people.
Yeah.
And when entrepreneurs, any entrepreneur here watching, you're thinking about starting your business, the easiest way to start making money is to provide a high value business or service to people who have money to pay you. And so getting into YouTube consulting is great because there's not a ton of people into it,
Yeah.
right? It hasn't been around for 40 years. If you're going to get into tax accounting, that's a great business to be into, but you have to have years of experience to know what you're doing, right? I did an interview with Tom on his channel. Like, that guy's an expert.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
He's a genius.
So if you're going to go and compete with Tom, it's going to take you so many years to even catch up to a base level of knowledge. But in YouTube consulting, it's easier because there is nobody really who's been doing this for 40 years, right? Or you're a ChatGPT consultant and you're helping use AI for people in the corporate. Who is the expert on that? Like, there's nobody because it's still so brand new. So this is the area where it's super high value for clients, but there aren't a lot of experts at it. So for you to spend 6 months becoming great at it, you could be now in the top 1% of all people who know how to use that thing, and then start charging for your services on top of it, right? And so that's the way I like to think about it. And then I combine it with, and just giving kind of making money tips. Think about how can you charge a higher price to fewer people, where a lot of people will start off trying to sell a course or trying to go big, but to make that work, you have to have thousands of clients, which is really hard at the beginning. It's easier for you to get 5 clients who will pay you $3,000 a month. Like, focus on that. Be a YouTube consultant, be a ChatGPT consultant, be something that is of value right now, and find 10 clients who will pay you $3,000 a month, right? That gives you the base to be able to build a real business off of, instead of trying to go scale from the beginning, because most people who end up trying to go courses from the beginning end up selling 2 courses and never making any money. And that model plays out. Like, you look at Tesla, they started with their high-end cars, and then they go to the medium cars, and now they're trying to go mass. But you start with a service to target people who have money who can pay you. So you start making money, bringing it in, that then allows you to invest more into your team and scale, right? I've got 50 people. We just crossed 50 people in my company.
Congrats.
And I can do so much more. Like, if I didn't have 50 people or my team, I wouldn't be here with you, because I'd be doing everything else myself, right? So, like, the ability to start making money so you can invest in your team, so you can really start to scale your business, I think becomes really important.
And I love that. That's actually what I did too when I first started, like, my marketing company, is that I started, trying to specialize in just one skill and then being able to offer it to other people, right? And I think something that a lot of entrepreneurs face actually is, okay, you specialize in your skill, you start offering it to clients, and you start growing, right? You start getting your clients. Apart from, like, for example, your mentors that you've mentioned, who else is important on your team, right? Because a really important aspect of being an entrepreneur is building your team. So who were the first people that you acquired on your team when you were small, and who are fundamental now that took you to, like, this bigger level?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you want to scale your business, you need team. You could build a $300,000-$400,000 consulting business by yourself with a VA, a part-time person. But you need team to scale. And so then the question becomes, well, what needs to get done in the business, but that you don't like doing or you suck at doing? And then that's the thing that you need to offload. So there's not one role for everybody, but like Kim, if Kim doesn't like organization, she'll do it if she has to. Like, at the beginning, I'm sure she had to stay organized and everything, but, like, this is not my superpower. So her first hire should be somebody who can help her organize all of her stuff, right? For me, I did not like any of the behind the scenes stuff. So I was doing everything for my YouTube channel at the beginning. And then as soon as I could afford to, I hired somebody to do editing. Like, okay, oh my God, editing is great. I don't have to sit there edit videos anymore. It's amazing, right? Shout out to all the editors who love doing the editing, because we need you, right? And so that allowed me to be a lot more productive. So whatever the thing is in your business that is required, but that you don't like doing, because you're never going to win ultimately doing work that you hate. So at the beginning, you have to do everything. Okay, but then what are those tasks you can then hire somebody to do? And I'm also a big fan of hiring part-time at the beginning. There's a couple things. One, it's cheaper. A lot of times people think, oh, I have to have their full-time employee. It's going to cost me this much, and I don't have that much coming in. Cool. The first person I hired was 1 hour a day. Like, you can hire people for 1 hour a day, especially if it's online, remote, depending on the type of work that needs to get done, which is a lot easier to then get started and build momentum instead of having to wait to have a bucket of money to be able to give somebody. And 2, it also helps you get better at managing, because where do we learn to manage people? You don't learn that in school. right? We don't learn how to manage people. We're taught usually the opposite in school, which Robert loves talking about. It's like, it's cheating. It's cheating to look at somebody else's test or work together, right? You got to do it all by yourself. But like that's the opposite in business. You have to do it as a team. So where do we learn the ability to manage and delegate? We don't, right? I think a lot of people, even if you think about school projects, we're usually the ones like hard carrying the school projects.
Or we're taught to be like the smartest person in the room, right? Like you always want to compete against the person next to you.
Yeah.
Or Robert teaches us like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want your team to be the smartest people in the room.
It's completely counter to what we learn in the school system. So great. You know, if you've never led somebody before, you're probably not going to be a great boss. It doesn't mean you're going to be a terrible boss. You're going to chew them out and they're going to hate you. But you need to learn how to actually manage people. And so it's easier to manage somebody for an hour a day, part-time, while you're still running your company, than to have a full-time person who you're now committed to. It's very rare that the first employee at any company is still there. Look at employee number 1 and 10 years later, like that person's gone. Not because the person sucked, it's because you sucked as a leader. Yeah, like you don't know how to hire, you don't know how to delegate, you don't know how to manage, you don't know how to train. We think that we get somebody in and then, oh, this person's just going to take off all my problem. You gotta train them. You gotta mentor them. You gotta help. And so it's easier to get started. Like that's a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life, no matter what you end up doing. But it's easier to get started when it's a part-time thing. So whatever the skill is that needs to be done in your business that you don't want to do anymore, that's a person that you hire, and ideally part-time, so it's cheaper for you to get started and you can start to work on your leadership muscles.
If you're feeling inspired now to build your 6-figure business, click the link in the description below to grab your free ebook so you can fire yourself and take the leap from employee to entrepreneur. And like you said, Evan, like time is money, right? And so if you're going to be exchanging that, if you're going to be paying someone else so you can free up your own time, it's not like just so you can sit back and see how the business grows on its own. It's so that you can reinvest that time into what you're good at, maybe making more videos or training the people. Like I've trained my VAs. I spend a lot more time on them than anything else so that they can execute like the quality that I want, and so that they can also learn from me and hopefully apply it to someone else. So I think that's important too. Like you're not just paying someone to take over the task you don't like. You're paying someone so you can have more time to reinvest in your business as well.
Yeah, and so I'll do different days for different tasks, and Monday is mentoring day.
Oh,
so I just spend
that.
the whole day mentoring the team. So I'm on I usually 25 minutes on, and then 5-minute break. 25 minutes, 5 minutes.
Nice.
And the whole day, just mentoring different people on the team, where they're at, what they're struggling with, how I can help. And some people I talk to more often than others, depending on their role inside the company. But you don't necessarily have to do that. But I think being a good mentor and a good leader is important, because so that takes a full day every week out of my calendar to do. But they're off contributing at this point. They do a lot more in the company than I do.
Yeah.
Me working full time, I still can't. Even if I'm doing 100-hour weeks, like I'm nothing compared to the 50 people on my team doing all their work. So the more I can level them up, the more it helps me build the company too.
And I think that's a really important aspect, right? Like your team needs to be aligned also with what you do. And so at Rich Dad, our mission is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity, right? So can you tell us about like your mission and how your team is also passionate about your mission?
Yeah, I think the world's biggest problem is people don't believe in themselves enough. So I think whatever problem we've got in the world, it's going to be solved by an entrepreneur, I think.
Yeah.
It's not the government or anybody else, it's the entrepreneurs, I think. So like cancer, the woman who would have solved cancer by now is, a manager at McDonald's because she never believed in herself to go to med school enough, right? So that's what I'm trying to unlock in people. Hey, how can you believe in yourself more to go off and become what I call the Michael Jordan of your industry? Like everybody has Michael Jordan level genius at something. But we either don't believe that we have it or we don't believe in ourselves enough to go chase it down. And so that's the mission of the company. That's what I try to create in everything I make. Even in this interview, I try. It's always the intention, whether it happens or not. It's always the goal. And when we're recruiting for that, we'll lead with the job ad would be if I'm hiring a video editor. Video editor who believes in entrepreneurs. Like that's the title. And then the first paragraph would just be all about believe, the message, what we're trying to create. And we're trying to have people select in or out. right? So some people look at that and say, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I'm just a video editor. Believe in entrepreneurs. This is done. Cool. Like, don't apply, because we're not gonna, like, you're better off somewhere else, and we're better off with somebody else too, right? And then we want others who will look at it and say, wow, this is awesome, you know? And they'll spend more time on the application to try to get into your company because they love the mission so much. My main video editor, her name is Christina. She's been with us for over a decade now. Got Believe tattooed.
Oh, wow.
Even before
she was part
joined
of
the team.
Wow.
She's just aligned with the mission. So when she saw it, like, oh, I want to work there. And in the job, I asked her to do something. We always do a trial job because I don't think you can get as much in an interview. People can, like, if you're hiring a video editor, if they ace the interview or not, doesn't matter. Like, their communication skills are not the thing you're hiring them for, right? A salesperson maybe, but a video editor or something technical is like, I need to see you do the work.
What you say you can do,
Yeah, so we'll always hire people on a trial job. So like hacks for hiring, right? We'll hire somebody and we'll give them a job that should take 2 hours, but we'll pay them for up to 5.
Okay.
And we'll pay everybody for up to 5. So what we do is 2 things. One, it sees, did they like milk me? If they take the full 5 hours, right? Because I'm not a very micromanaging boss. I'm not looking over your computer and like, what do you guys, I hate that stuff. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs would be the same way. So how do you, especially if it's remote, know if they're trustworthy or not?
Yeah, that they're executing based off of the value that they're giving.
Exactly. So we get to see, right? We'll pay you. So it's not some free job. We'll pay you for up to 5 hours. But internally, we know this should be like a 2-hour-ish job. So we see either they took the full 5 hours or they didn't, which is already a gauge. And then we're looking for somebody who over-delivers. So Christina, when we hired her, we hired maybe 20 video editors at the same time for doing the trial job. But she was the only one who came back and said, okay, here's what you asked me to do, and I did it. Here's what you asked me for. But like what you asked for kind of sucked, so I made my own version of it that's better.
Wow.
She said it a lot more.
Yeah, she presented it more eloquently.
Yeah, exactly. Don't say that your clients suck when you work. But basically that's what it was, right? I asked for the trial job for them to do edit like I was editing. Right? But I suck at editing, right? I mean, what do I know? And so she's a professional editor, and she said, okay, I did your style, and then I did what I think would be better. I was like, wow, like, that's so much better. Let's go, Christina, right? And so we hired her. And then, 10 years later, we had her husband, we've hired her friends. And she believes in the cause that we're creating, but contributes her skills. She doesn't want to be in front of the camera telling stories. She loves editing them to bring them to life, right? So finding those kind of people, but you need to lead with it, right from the job ad, right from the mission, so that people get either, it's a magnet where they're either like pulled away and repulsed, like this is dumb, or they love it so much that they want to spend more time with you.
I love that. And so obviously your whole company is built off of like this very strong mission. Like it's clear from the get-go, all your videos, everything you've done for entrepreneurs, and thank you for that, right? But I'm curious to know is if there's ever been a time that you've maybe put the profit over making a difference, and like what that experience was like what did you learn from it? If there even was a time.
I'm kind of in a weird situation where at the beginning I had no money. I was like dead broke, $300 a month, bean salad every day, right?
Bye.
And then I sold my company. And in a 3-year period, I went from being broke to not being like crazy rich, not like going off and buying Lambos and all that, but like not needing
comfortable, well off.
Not needing to worry enough about money. So I think making money is really important. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you're not making money, you're not an entrepreneur. You have to make money. I would say it has to be in your top 5. So if you list the priorities, if money's not in your top 5, you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to learn how to make money. But it's not number 1 either. And I think there has to be something above money in your business. Like, what are you here for? At least me personally. I don't know. Maybe there's others who can do it, and it's great. And maybe I just don't care enough about money. That could be an honestly, like I care about impact and growth. And I'm sure if money's number 4 for me, if I made it number 2, I'd probably have a lot more money. So I can't think of any time that, at least that I regret. Money always comes into the equation. If we're launching a new video series or a new company, or work with Jeremy, like I want him to make money, right? It's got to make money. I don't know that we've made a decision only off of money, and if we have, it's probably not a big one, because I don't look back and say, you know, that one. Like,
that was the one.
yeah, you know, yeah. If anything, I'm the opposite. If anything, I should be probably prioritizing money more.
Well, it's almost like there's like the processional effect, right, where you're chasing something else, which is like, you know, your passion, your dream, your brand, and then money comes after that, right? It's like a kind of like a, what is the term called, like a bystander effect, or
yeah, like
it's like a byproduct of it. And so it's incredible. I think if you're truly making a difference in someone's life, then money will follow. So clearly that's what's been happening with your story and what you've lived through, your journey of entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's been great. I can't complain. And if anything, I probably need to prioritize it more. Just like when people say, well, how do you balance like being humble with like confidence? And if anything, like I'm too humble, right? Like, but it's a bad thing. Like I don't worry about being humble. I need to work on being more
confident in what you've
it's
given.
like, hey, I'm kick-ass at what I do, and like actually owning that, right? So I'm working on it.
I love that. Yeah.
But I think we all have these things that there's nobody who's like perfectly balanced. You know, think about people's views on money when they grow up. We either are told money is everything, and like that next person coming in, that's my next purse. That's my next pair of shoes. Or we're taught that money is the root of all evil, right? Which it's like the love of money is that's the actual quote, but that's typically where we've grown up in. And so I think like a lot of our beliefs, the things that we strongly believe in are amazing, but we often take them to too far a degree that it hurts us. So I used to think that anybody who's in front of a camera, that person like is such an egomaniac. Like that person hates their life. That person is just a scam artist, you know, right? And here I am.
And here you are,
well,
number one YouTuber.
Because if I didn't get more comfortable doing that, my mission would stay small, right? And so the thing that gets me more kicked into gear is service, right? So if I had a choice between, hey, this thing's gonna help you make $1 million, this thing's gonna help you reach 10 million people or whatever, the service thing is the thing that will get me more out of my comfort zone, where naturally I'll be scared to do either one. Like, oh, it's easy just to stay here and be safe and be introvert and stay home. But the service thing is the one that will get me going more. But it's always being conscious of that other side. Like, I think you can learn a lot from people that you hate. I think there's something in the other side that you don't like, but you could use a little bit of that for yourself to become better.
And even from like the YouTube comments, I'm sure you've experienced, like you can always use whatever they're trying to tell you. Might not be the best delivery, but that criticism to become better, right? So it can be hurtful, but I think it can end up making you grow into someone who interviews better, someone who finds better guests as well. So I think that criticism can stem into something better. And something that's really important too is like you said, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be producing money, because if not, you're not an entrepreneur. And so money may not be everything, but it does pay for a lot of important things in your life, a lot of things that it can't buy. It technically can buy happiness, right? Because if you have a family member that's sick, you can take care of them. If you need to see a loved one, you can fly to them, right? What are some ways you've used money to kind of give back to this entrepreneur world? I know I was reading you did like micro lending and stuff for entrepreneurs, so.
Yeah, how much are we giving away? I want to say 200,000 or so we've given away through micro lending through Kiva. That was a program that my sister helped me start.
Oh wow!
Where I don't even know how many people we've given the money away to. But again, it wasn't just a donation; it's micro lending. So like, hey, you start your business and then you pay it back, and then we give it to somebody else, and just keep it going. I think the biggest contribution though is like through the actual content. Like most of the content is free. It's up there. It's on YouTube. Go learn. I started the channel because I'm a visual learner. Like if you had this when I started, I watch every episode. Like, I need to learn. I need to figure this out. Like I don't want to be making $300 a month. How do I make some money? You know, like, come on, Alexandra, teach me.
Give me the answer.
I would have loved it, right? And so I started making YouTube content because it's what I needed. And YouTube has changed a lot. When people say, "Was it too late on YouTube?" It's like not even close. Because when I started, I made a 6-minute video, and I was getting destroyed that it was too long. Nobody's going to watch a 6-minute video. I didn't understand how the internet worked, like all of this stuff. So it's really changed. Where now YouTube is the place to go and learn. right? If you want to learn about real estate, where are you going?
Everything is on there.
Yeah, you're not going to the library to learn about real estate.
Even at this event that I was just at, they started talking more about like, it was supposed to be just real estate, right?
Yeah.
And they started talking sometimes less about the technical stuff and more about just like the personal development aspect of things, because they were like, the whole formula for real estate, investing, getting started, property management, it's on our YouTube channel. Like go watch it there. Today I want to talk about something different.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of free resources.
Tons. I mean, I remember Robert made a video, I forget who he had on, maybe it was Tom, talking about buy, borrow, die.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I love this. Buy, borrow, die, this is great. Buy, borrow, die is amazing. How do I? And Canada has slightly different rules. It doesn't work as well in Canada, but I'm still trying to find like the hacks to make it all happen. But like I didn't learn that at school.
Yeah.
I didn't. I went to. I was economics and commerce and finance and entrepreneurship. But like I didn't learn any of this stuff, right? So it's like the best teachers are out there on YouTube, and so I wanted to contribute to that. But you have to make content that, especially if you want to have longevity, you have to love the thing, right? So back to like making money. The first top 10, some people might know me for like the top 10 videos that we do on YouTube, right? We've done Robert a whole bunch of times. The first we did was Kanye West. And I guess irrelevant Kanye now all over the news again, but it was the top 10 rules for success from Kanye. And there's a story in there, for example, John Legend. You know John Legend?
Yeah.
He comes off as like the nicest human of all time. I don't know John, but he like seems to be very humble. Him and Kanye are friends, which already feels weird. Like
ironic,
how does that happen, right? And maybe not Kanye now, but think Kanye like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But John Legend, his name isn't John Legend. His name is John Stevens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his actual name is John Stevens. And when he's at the beginning of his career, he's at a bar in Chicago with Kanye, and he says, John Stevens says, I feel like I'm in a different era. Like I don't belong in this era.
Okay.
I'm for like the Sinatra era. And Kanye says, you should call yourself the legend.
Oh, wow. And that's how it was.
And John Stevens says, I can't do that. Like I'm just getting started. I'm going to call myself the legend from the beginning.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And Kanye helped him believe in himself to call himself John Legend, and that became his name.
Wow.
So even if you hate Kanye, he's a whatever.
He did something,
like, do you
powerful.
believe in your friends as much as Kanye believed in
John
Stevens
at the time.
right?
Yeah.
And so those are the stories I love to tell. But if I did top 10 stupidest things Kanye West has ever said or done, that video would get like 50 times as many views as the rules for success.
It's the perfect clickbait.
Right? But I don't feel good doing that. Like I would burn out. So like to the question of do you do things for money or for the service or the purpose? I want to make money, but inside my purpose. Because if I kept making those kinds of videos, I would start to hate what I'm doing.
What you're doing.
And then I would quit.
Yeah.
So like I started 2009 on YouTube, and we haven't missed an upload in like over a decade.
Yeah. You're
Why?
pretty consistent.
Well, because I love the work. Like I love the process, right? Like this is fun. This isn't
Yeah.
work for me. It's like I get to come here and talk to Alexandra. We get to do this show. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You get to inspire other people.
But like the actual work is fun. Where if you think of it as going to a job, or you're thinking of it just as trying to make money so that you can pay for X, then you're going to quit at some point because it's not fulfilling enough.
And so now that we've talked about like just the overall, characteristics, building a team and the life of an entrepreneur, I kind of want to go into like this last part of just like the interview and talk about YouTube. YouTube is such an important space. You've clearly dominated it. You have, I'd say, the recipe for the formula for success on YouTube. And it's funny because even starting out when I was an intern here, I would study everything you were doing. So like the thumbnails, the titles, everything, and implemented it. So clearly, if we reached a level of success, it's because of all your tips and everything. And I just want your opinion. I know you're big in the space. Would you say that it's important for every entrepreneur to be on YouTube, or maybe it's not necessary?
So I think if you want to build a big brand, then you have to.
Okay.
YouTube is the education platform now. Again, it's changed a lot over the past 10 years. It didn't used to be that way. If you want to be a real estate, you're a mortgage broker. Do you need to be on YouTube? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Local business, mostly referral based, but you're not going to scale. So if you're going to scale, then you need marketing. And if you're in marketing, the best marketing is YouTube right now, because the content you make lives forever.
Yeah.
And so if you want to build a big organization, you have a big mission, you want to serve America, you want to serve the world, that's your goal, then you have to be on YouTube. You're not going to do it just through referrals and thinking locally. If you are just small and local, you can still use YouTube to hack your business growth.
Yeah.
So for example, that local mortgage broker, it's all relationships. It's how you're going to build your business. So what you could do is you launch your own YouTube interview show and use something like this.
Yeah.
And you think about who are the people who can recommend clients to me. And then you do a show interviewing them. Because they're not going to want to just go and meet you for coffee. They're not going to want to go and just hear your pitch for why you should partner together. But they'll come on your show for an hour to talk to you and get to know you.
They'll want something out of it too, yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll be like, oh, you do that? Oh, cool. I can probably give you some business because you built a relationship. So even if the video, you still post it to YouTube, doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to take off. The point of creating that video is to create the relationship with the people. So I'm actually a big fan of starting I call it a biz dev show.
Okay.
So start a biz dev show for whatever business you're in, because so many people quit on YouTube because they're not, it's the hardest platform to grow because the content lives forever. So you're up against a lot more competition, but the videos that you make now in a year, 2 years, 5 years are still generating leads, income, subscribers, sales for you. But it's hard to think in 5-year windows, right? It's like I'm spending time, I need to make money, I need to grow my business. So the easiest way to start is not thought leadership content, which would be, here are the 8 ways to save money this year or whatever, right? Those will take forever to get going. And you at the beginning of your journey probably suck at talking to camera. So it's a skill set that needs to be developed. And then we make a video, we look back at it, like, oh my God, I thought I sucked, but I'm like way worse than I thought I was gonna be too. I can't put this up, it's embarrassing. And so we stop, right? Most people don't go through that phase because they don't have the patience. So the way to start it is a biz dev show. So what I love when I'm talking to people is like, well, what do you sell? When they come to me and they ask, how do I get started on YouTube? Okay, before we talk about that, what do you sell?
Yeah.
Like, what are we trying to sell? And then let's create a show where you're talking to people who could be either ideal clients for you or ideal partners for you. So that regardless of how well the video does, because it's not going to do well at the beginning because you're just starting your channel and you suck as a host because you're just getting started, right? Again, none of this means you suck as a human. You just don't have the skills.
The first phase of Millennium Money is like the perfect example of that, where I was literally called Latina Bot because I could not function in front of the camera. So the first initial steps of hosting, definitely don't judge yourself based off of that.
Well, and like expect to suck. Just expect to suck. It's like you're learning how to snowboard. You're not just going to get up and go down the hill. You're going to fall 1,000 times on the way. It's fine, right? But we think because I suck at the skill, therefore I suck as a human, and so I'm not going to do it. Like no, like any skill, you practice it, you get better.
Yeah.
So most people don't want to put in that work because they also need to get money coming in.
Yeah.
So if you do a biz dev show, think about how many people would refer, ideally, not just clients, but partners, that if they're sitting with you and they were thinking about you every week because they had this show, how much more business does that lead to for you? So you could build a 7-figure business off of 100 subscribers on your YouTube channel because of building the relationships.
No, and so, yes, it's very important for every entrepreneur can be very important for every entrepreneur to be on YouTube, right? And I'm almost wondering, it might be a little intimidating for anyone who's watching this wanting to start their YouTube channel, right? Because, I was reading there's already like 51 million YouTube channels. So, I mean, yes, there's a niche for everything, but do you think it's too much competition at this point? Because I know you got into it, at the age of 20?
2009, so I was 29. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe an unfair advantage there, where it wasn't so crowded.
Course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been around something for longer, of course you have an unfair advantage. But the thing is, YouTube has also evolved and changed, right? I'm making these thought leadership long form 6-minute videos and people say I'm crazy, right? So it's more recent that it's become an education platform. I think the thing to look at is if you want to build a big company, a big brand, you want to be the face for blank for America, then you have to be on YouTube, for sure. You have to be on every platform, but you have to be on YouTube. Or you don't accomplish your mission. Like there's no way you're going to do that. So that's easy. It's the beginner ones where I may not want to have a national brand, I may not want to be known around the world, but I'm trying to build my local little business. Then it's how does YouTube compare to other marketing strategies? Where for most businesses, again, networking is the way to get your first clients and to get repeat clients, and you need to get referrals. If you don't have referrals, you don't have a business, especially at the early stages of your company. It's like, how do you start talking to people so that they like you, know you, and want to do referrals? So what are your options? You can go to networking events. You can, maybe your mom is super connected somewhere and opens doors for you, right? That's a better strategy. But like, I knew nobody. I went to the bank to start my first business, right? I walk in, he's like, okay, I'm here. I got my first business. How can you help me? He's like, well, do you need a loan? I go, I don't know. You're a bank. You're supposed to help me, right? He's like, no, we give loans. Like, this is how little I knew, right? I'm 19. I walk in. I thought they were going to help me build my business, right? That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to start building a network? Well, if you have an interview show, it's so much easier for people to say yes. Now, you're not going after like The Rock to come on. He's not going to come on your show.
Yeah.
But if you're a local Scottsdale real estate, or mortgage broker, and you're trying to connect with real estate lawyers, who's talking to Scottsdale real estate lawyers?
Yeah.
Nobody. Like, it's the first interview they've ever done in their life. You want to talk to me about real estate law? Okay, cool. It's like, it's an honor. They're going telling their husbands or wives, like, hey, I'm on this show. And you built this relationship. So it's just the easiest way, and I'm open. If you find a better way to do it, to build relationships with people, awesome. But networking events can work. Your personal contacts can work. But if you don't have any personal connections, hosting an interview show is, in my view, the easiest way to start building relationships. That then leads to a 6-7-figure business without having tons of subscribers. So the goal at the beginning isn't, I need 1 million subscribers. The goal is, I need $1 million, or whatever you're trying to build up for your company.
Awesome. And for anyone who's starting their YouTube channel, what are like the top 3 tips that you would recommend for them? Because I'm, maybe it's something that still applies and you'll share with us, but I know I focused on like the thumbnails, titles, and your format for everything.
Okay. So the most important thing is that you love the videos that you're making.
Okay.
Because if it feels like work, you're just gonna quit, just like anything else, right? So if you're gonna be doing interview shows, like, actually love the person you have coming on, right? Hopefully you like me.
I do, don't worry.
Hopefully Evan gets those views, but I hate this guy.
I was really excited for this. Yeah, I was really excited.
Because if you hated interviewing people, like, you're gonna quit. It's just, so you have to love the thing that you're doing. Cool, assuming you did that. Inside of that, then tactics for YouTube, there's 4 main things that we always look at for channels. Yes, for 3, so we'll do the bonus. The first is the frequency. So how often are you making videos, right? If you're just getting started, you have to go at least once a week, right? Or you're not consistent, you have to go at least once a week. Like, that's your entry point in. Unless you're making epic, like, Star Wars trailer crazy stuff, once a week. Because imagine you're trying to practice a skill. How are you going to get good at a skill, even if you're just doing it once a week? You're just going to take so long to get good at the skill. Where with Steve, when I started practicing, it was 3 times a day I was making content to try to help, right? That's how I got better, without being very good at the beginning. So at least once a week. If you're at once a week, then 3 times a week. And if you're at 3 times a week, the goal is to go daily. Daily is often scary for people at the beginning. So, like, don't worry about being a pro yet. Just get once a week. Get some content going up. So the first is frequency. The second is length. If you're teaching, go longer. It's either super short, like shorts now, shorts, and those shorts, 60-second vertical videos. You can also take the Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels and TikTok and Twitter if it's under 45 seconds. But shorts really work, or long. So long is, how long is long? Well, at least 10 minutes, but the biggest growth we're seeing is in the 1 to 3 hour category.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because people are going to learn.
Like Joe Rogan.
Like, how did Rogan blow up? 4-hour-long interviews, deep dives, right? Because typically in a short interview, the questions are the same as the other interviews, and it's all the same stories, but in a longer interview, you get to actually dive deeper into somebody's story. So 1 to 3 hours. And like, oh my God, how do I talk for 1 to 3 hours? Well, don't do it alone, right? Like, do an interview. You just keep asking questions, and then they keep talking, and it just keeps going. Or you do a coaching session, right? Like, if you're doing something I talked to Tom about, like if he's doing coaching for people on how to fix their finances, great. Don't just teach me the 8 ways to fix my finances. Bring somebody on, and then you coach them. And if you're an expert at what you do, Tom can go for hours and just help, and that could become great content for people to watch. So people are going to learn, right? So long content. So how frequent? At least once a week, and then go long, at least 10 minutes. But if you can hit an hour to 3 hours, like, that's awesome. The next is going to be your click-through rate, which would be a function of your thumbnail and your title. So you could have a great video, but if people are not clicking on it, they're not going to go and watch the video, right? Cash flow, right? Like if this was just a box, we're not going to open the box, even though it's like great content inside here, right? I remember playing the cash flow quadrant when I was 16. I don't remember. This game's been around for a long time. But it's a nice box, right? It's interesting. It makes you want a book is interesting. It makes you want to open it, right? So your thumbnail is about 70% of it, and the title is about 30% of it. It has to be called something great, right? If we labeled this interview number 302, and it's just a picture of the chair or something, like people aren't going to click on it as much, even though it's hopefully a great interview, right? So click-through rate really matters, and the good thing with YouTube is you can always update that. The video you made 3 years ago, go update it. It's still relevant. Like you're not gonna. Nobody cares about your Instagram a week ago, but your YouTube video from 5 years ago can still be getting you views, as long as the content is still relevant, right? So go update it, and they can start to take off again. And then the last one is the hardest one, which is the first minute retention. So people will watch 3 hours, but you have to hold their attention in the first minute. So the first minute really, 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 really matters. And most people, that's where they lose people is in that first minute. So assume that they have no idea who you are. I have no idea who Rich Dad is. I have no idea who Alexandra is. I have no idea who Evan is. I have no idea who these people are. Because that's who we're trying to target. If you're targeting people who already know you, we're talking to a smaller audience. We're talking to the world. You know, I'm sure you want to reach 8 billion people. Like Robert, the mission, we got to teach the world about this. So, you know, I want to reach the world. I have 3.5 million subscribers. Like that's nothing. So I assume that they have no idea who I am, right? So assume they don't know who you are. So how most people will start a video is be like, hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Evan. Great. They're like, welcome back. I don't even know who you are. What am I being welcome back to, right? So the first minute really, really matters. And YouTube will show you the audience retention curve, which shows you like second by second where people are falling off. And the best is a minute, you're hitting 70%. And that's hard. And like nobody hits it consistently. But that becomes the goal. So if you look at the intros, what did you try different this time? You know, are you doing, do you lead with a question? Do you lead with coming up, so preview what's coming? Do you lead with your own thoughts of what happened? Like, what are we playing with at the beginning so that we can keep people for a minute? Because if you can keep them for a minute, you can usually keep them for not everybody, but it's like the slow drop off over the next 10 minutes, hour, 3 hours, whatever. It's that first minute that really, 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 really matters. So what did I say? I said frequency, at least once a week, right?
Consistent
the length, you know, so either super short, under a minute, or 10 minutes plus, but ideally 1 to 3 hours. The click-through rate, where we're fixing our thumbnails and titles, and then the first minute retention, trying to aim for 70%.
Just curious, what would you consider a good average on the click-through rate?
So that is a great question. There's no simple answer, because a click-through rate, you know, my best video has like a 1.9% click-through rate.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because it's being spread to a whole bunch of new people. So if it's going to new people, it'll have a lower click-through rate.
Oh, I see.
If it's going just to your hardcore, if it's going to your mom, you're going to get 100% click-through rate. I hope, right? I mean, let's go, Mom. Our moms. Come on, Mom. Come on, let's go.
Because I would have imagined like the higher the click-through rate.
So here's what happens. When you launch a video, if it has a high click-through rate on your thumbnail, YouTube then promotes it to more people, which then lowers the click-through rate. So the key is looking at a relative click-through rate. So not an absolute, which is like, what's a good click-through rate? Well, that doesn't exist. But what you want to look at is by impressions. So if you look at, you know, what we'll do, how we do our A/B testing is you lump all the videos that got 10 million impressions in the past month. And impressions means YouTube is trying to show the video, but you didn't necessarily get a click. They just showed the video. So these are popular videos right now. And let's say there's 10 videos in there. We'll take the bottom half by click-through rate. So, you know, it might range from 2% to 8% click-through rate. So in that category, an 8% is really good and 2% is really bad. So anything in the bottom half, we're split testing. But we're comparing apples to apples. Because my number one video has a 1.9% click-through rate. You would think that sucks, but I expect, and if you look at anybody's channel, the number one videos almost always have like the lowest click-through rate on a channel because it's reaching new people. So when you're A/B testing, you have to also watch out for not just improving the click-through rate, but that you're actually getting more views. Because in about 20% of tests, you'll see that you raised the click-through rate, but you have lower views. Or the opposite, you lowered the click-through rate, but you have more views.
Okay.
So you think, oh, it lost because it actually won.
Okay.
Because it was a better thumbnail that started to raise the click-through rate, that then YouTube promoted it to more people, and then it lowered your click-through rate.
Okay.
But what do you care about? You care about views,
The views.
not the click-through rate, right?
Yeah.
The click-through will help you get, hopefully, more views, right? So in about 20% of those cases, you'll see that happens. So
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That was actually
is that too technical?
No, that was actually awesome because it's like we're running A/B tests right now, so that was more of like a personal question where I was genuinely curious because some of them get a lower click-through rate, but then they're the #1 videos, so it was just confusing as to how to dictate that level of success.
I mean, you're going hardcore at it, which is great. For anybody who's just kind of getting started, the best thing to do, and save this part in the video, come back to it, or show your marketing create video person or whatever, but go and look at your past 90 days of data and then sort by impressions. So these are videos that in the past 90 days, YouTube's trying to promote.
Okay.
So we're not trying to save some old video that has no views, right? But in those past 90 days, you'll see some videos that might be 5 years old that are still getting a lot of impressions. And then you look at the relative click-through rate. So find videos with similar impressions and then look at if one video had 10 million impressions, another video had 10 million impressions, one video had 4% click-through rate, the other had 2.
Yeah.
Well, you have to go fix that too. Because at 10 million impressions, you can get 4%. So this 2 one should be doubled. So you have to fix it. That, like, objectively, there's something off with this video. You have to fix the thumbnail and or title.
Okay.
And then you just keep repeating. I love that because that's what's happening right now on the channel. Right? Like, these are videos that YouTube's trying to show right now. And if you just fix the click-through rate, most people are so focused on new videos, new series, what am I launching? But most of the gold is actually in the library of fixing the videos that YouTube is trying to promote right now. But because your cover sucks, they're not getting the views, right? Like this game, I would test, if this was I would test Robert's face. I would test a real rat. I would test like a rat driving a Ferrari. I would, like, you test it's harder to do in an actual physical product. But YouTube, like, you can keep testing these things all the time, and you'll find that one combination just crushes the other ones.
That for me is like my favorite hack because it's like by just one simple image and like A/B testing it, you can get even more views. Like you said, double your click-through rate. So I think that's like a piece of gold when it comes to YouTube. So thank you. And Evan, now we're finalizing this Millennial Money episode. Do you have any words of advice for our audience?
The biggest thing is believe, right? So believe more in yourself. Believe that you're capable. Believe that for someone like you, it's possible. And if you got any energy from this, I mean, if you're watching this, you made it this far, like, you hopefully found some value here, to surround yourself more with it. Like, you may never meet Alexandra. If you do, say hi, take a selfie. She's very friendly.
I would love to.
It'd be great. But you may never meet her, but you can learn from her through all the content. And there's so many videos on this channel and other channels you can go and learn from. And people often say, well, social media is such a waste of time. And they look at Instagram, they look at YouTube, and like 4 hours go by and they haven't done anything. That's not for me. Like, I love it. I get tons of inspiration and wisdom from my social media. It's all about who you're following. So if you got a lot of wisdom and energy and ideas from here, cool. Like, subscribe to this channel. It's a great channel. Watch more videos and stop watching stupid things that make you feel worse about yourself, and watch more education, because it's the education that's going to help you change where you are from 1 year from now. So.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. And honestly, like you said, it was like filming these videos can be uncomfortable, but being able to learn from guests like you is what truly like motivates me too, because you're inspiring other people, but you learn so much from them. And so, my biggest takeaway too from all of this is definitely progress over perfection and consistent action. So I just want to thank you so much, Evan, for everything you do, for inspiring like this world of entrepreneurship.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you in another Millennial Money then.
Let's go.
If you guys enjoyed this interview with Evan Carmichael, you cannot miss the interview we did with Kim Kiyosaki, where she teaches you how to become an entrepreneur, the steps to build your business, and how to overcome any obstacles you might be facing. I'll see you guys in this next interview. Do not miss it.
Your business, treat your money also as a business. So you've got your business is making money. Well, then treat the money part, your income, your expenses, your assets, your life, treat that as a business, because it is.